Okay. Hi everyone. This is Gautam Puri here, and we will be looking at this session. Okay. Hi everyone. This is Gautam Puri here. Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is Gautam Puri from Career Launcher. Today we'll be discussing IFT. How should we taking the paper? What are the things we should be careful about? What is the approach for this paper? Okay. So we will be looking at all those issues as such. IFT is still some distance away for us. I'm sure for most of you, the important thing right now is CAT. Okay. Important thing right now is CAT. However, IFT is just about a week after CAT, so it is important that we look at IFT also simultaneously and not leave it for the end. Okay. Let me just look at the comments and let me see if I need to look at some of the questions which are there. Okay. 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 So I'll just shift to the PPT mode because I'll have to. Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay. Okay, I guess you can see the PPT on the screen. Uh, and if you can, we'll get started with the session. I'll just wait for a confirmation from your side. Okay, great. So let's get started. Let me hide this first, and yes, let me just also use the pen, the marker. Yeah. Good. So this is, as I said, what we are looking at. But before we get started, let's look at the overall purpose of the session. This is step one for us, understanding the paper, and only after you understand the paper, can you create a strategy around it. Okay, so we'll look at both the parts. The first part is understanding the paper, and then second part is going to be the strategy for the paper. Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. So this is something that we know. We know the paper is on 5th December. It's a 2-hour paper, and NTA will be conducting the paper. What we don't know is this. While we know what has happened in the past, this is something which has been variable in IFT. For example, the number of section IFT has varied from 4 to 6. When I say 4 to 6, it has either been 4 or 6. It not been anything else. So let me just write it differently. The number of section IFT have been either 4 or 6. The marking scheme, the questions uh, in different sections have different marks per. Okay, marks per question is different for different sections. Okay, and obviously what the cutoff is going to be is something that we don't know. It is going to be a function of what okay, it's going to be a function of the level of difficulty of the paper as such. Okay, okay. Just give me a second. Okay. right? So this is where we are right now. And as I said, while we know these things, these are something for which we'll have to make a reasonable estimate and then continue. Okay. Okay. So let's first look at the past paper so that we can make an estimate of what this year's paper is likely to be. These are the areas which IIFT tests, irrespective of whether it is 4 sections or 6 sections: English usage, reading comprehension, quantitative aptitude, data interpretation, logical reasoning, and general awareness. All 6 sections have come every year in IIFT. Okay. Every year we have these 6 sections. Okay. Or let me not say 6 sections, 6 areas are being tested. Okay. 6 areas have been done every year. In some years they are combined into a 4-section paper, and in some years there are 6 sections. Okay. Okay. Now, if you look at IIFT 2015-17, which means IIFT in this is the IIFT paper would have been conducted in 2014. 2014, yeah. This is 2015 paper. This is 2016 paper, 2017 paper, 18, 19, and 20. Okay. These are the papers. If you look at these papers, what you'll find is that some of these papers have 4 sections, some of these were 6 sections. So if I just write the number of sections, okay, 4 sections, 4 sections, 4 sections. Then we have 2 years of 6 sections. Then we again have 2 years of 4 sections. So what is that? So this is what I meant by saying we don't know whether it is going to be a 4 section or a 6 section paper. If you look at the last 2 years, it has been 4 sections, but even in the past it has been 4 sections earlier and then modified to become a 6 section paper in the subsequent years. Secondly, when we say it is a 4 section paper, one thing which definitely happens is these two become combined. So 2015, 17, 16, 18, 17, 19, or the last 2 years, every year, whenever we have had a 4 section paper, EU and RC have been combined. But when we look at the and data interpretation, quantitative aptitude, this has combined. Okay. But many times most of the time DI, LR have combined. Okay. So if you have to look at the 4 section paper, most of the time it is going to be English usage plus reading comprehension. Then it will have quantitative aptitude. It will have data interpretation plus logical reasoning in the single section, and then general awareness in the single section. So typically these are the 4 sections which are there in the 4 section paper. In a 6 section paper, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So all 6 are available out there. Okay. And the second thing which you need to look at is the sectional cutoff. IIFT has sectional cutoffs. Okay. Now it is a sectional cutoff. So in this particular paper of 2015-17, you will have one combined sectional cutoff for a section. It is sectional cutoff, not subsectional cutoff. Okay. Okay. So in a 4-section paper, there will be 4 sectional cutoffs. In a 6-sectional paper, obviously there will be 6 sectional cutoffs. Okay. Puneet, last year the pattern did not change. I don't know where you have got this information from. Mhm, mhm. Okay. 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 So that's the broad understanding of the paper which you need to have. Now, this is the first level of complication in this paper. We don't know whether it is likely to be a 4-section or a 6-section paper. So, first level of complication. Second thing which you need to look at IIFT is the number of questions, and more importantly, the marks per question. While last 2 years, it has been 3 marks per question for all sections except general awareness. Okay. Prior to that, the marks per question would vary. For example, look at 2014. This is the 2014 paper, this is 2015-17. This is IIFT paper conducted in 2014, 15, 16. Let me just write it down. Now look at the marks per question. Marks per question 0.75, 0.75, 0.75, 1.75. Now till this point of time, the total marks in the paper were 100. It was 100 marks per paper. Okay. Last 2 years, it has become 300 marks per paper, because where you were getting 1 mark, now you are getting 3 marks. So you could, if you have to compare these two papers with the earlier years, you could say this is 1 mark and this is 0.7, 0.5 marks. Okay, so that is the way you could look at it. But to me, the more interesting thing is, if you notice, the marks per question has varied. Okay, LR 0.75, 0.75, 1. Okay, so if we look at these papers, the marks per question varies on a year to year basis, and hence we cannot be ever sure as to what are going to be the marks per question. Usually, if you look at English usage, it is typically 1 mark, or it is, sorry, 0.75 marks, and RC usually is 1 mark, though even RC in the past had been 0.75 marks per question. Okay. 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 All MBA papers now are, almost all MBA papers are online papers. I can't think of any paper which is an offline paper now. So there's an online paper, Mohammed. Okay. So this is the second level of complication, and the third level of complication, again, number of questions. But there also you can see, by and large, English usage has been 20 questions. So if you look at the section wise, English usage typically is about 20 questions. Okay. Okay. RC is typically 16 questions. So EU plus RC has been typically about 35, 36 questions. That is what happened last 2 years also. Similarly, if you look at quantitative aptitude 20, 22, 20, 20, 20, last 2 years 25 questions. So we can say 22 to 25, anything is possible. Data interpretation, typically about 15 to 18 questions. Okay, and LR, 20 questions is the, by and large, the norm. So if you look at between these two, again, we are talking about 30 to 35 questions. Last 2 years, okay, okay. And general awareness, the numbers tell you typically about 20 questions. Now, this is the paper which is there. Overall, what is important is not the number of questions, but the total marks is 300, assuming 3 marks per question for all sections apart from general awareness, which is 1.5 marks. Okay. So typically, if you look at these all papers, the total marks were 100. Since the marks per question have been multiplied with 3 to remove the decimals, these questions have become these papers have become 300 marks in the last 2 years. Okay. So that is what the paper structure is. So a fairly complicated paper structure, and hence the first thing you need to do in IIFT is to look at the paper structure and understand. Okay, with it. So what are you looking for? One, 4 versus 6 sections. Okay. Second, you are looking at marks per question in each section. Broadly, you could look at these numbers. These are fairly representative. While quant could go down to 20 also, and this could go up to 25 also. But between QA, DI, LR, we are still talking about 55 questions and about 20 odd questions in general awareness with a total of 300 marks. Okay. Assuming, yeah, when I say 300 marks, I essentially mean 3 marks per question for all other sections, and general awareness is 1.5 marks per question. Okay. Now, some of you have been asking for cutoff marks. Let me share the cutoffs. I don't know where some people said that the cutoff is not available. The cutoffs are available. The important thing again to look at is that the cutoff again varies depending on various factors. First is the level of difficulty of the paper. And second is the complexity. What do I mean by complexity? The complexity is 4 versus 6 sections. Whenever you have a 6 section paper, the cutoffs fall. Look at 2018, 20, and 19, 21. These are 6 section papers, 35.5, 32.25. 15, the previous 3 papers, 38, 48, 48.5. Okay, 38.5, 48.5, and 48.5. Similarly, if you look at last 2 years papers, 138 and 137. 138, these are 300 marks paper, so divided by 3, it will be about 45, yeah, 46. So these are equivalent to 46 marks. Okay. So as compared to these three papers, which are 38 point, 48.5, 48.5, these two papers are about 46 marks, which is in the same range. And look at the two papers which had 6 sections, it is about 35 odd marks. And which is why I'm saying, if it's a 6 section paper, typically the cutoffs will fall because it is more complex paper and you are expected to get a minimum score in each of these sections. So you're forced to spend more time in each of the sections separately. When it's a 4 section paper, for example, look at this as a combined paper, a cutoff of 4.67, which means about 5 questions. You can get the cutoff from quant and not do any bit of DI if you don't want to. Similarly, if I look at this particular paper, you could get the entire score from LR or from DI and not do the other part at all. So whenever it's a 4 section paper, you have the flexibility of leaving the difficult out of the out of the two. For example, if you look at IIFT 2022, which was conducted in 2021 December, in this paper, DI was easy and LR was difficult, and a couple of questions were incorrect also. In this kind of a paper, many people chose not to do much of LR and maximized in DI, and hence were able to very comfortably get the cutoff. And 22 marks, remember, is about 7 questions because it is 3 marks per question. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is the paper structure, which is what I wanted to understand. The other part which I wanted to focus on the fact is that the sectional cutoffs are fairly low. Even here, look at this is about 11 questions, 12 questions roughly. 15 is about 5 questions, and this is about 3 questions. Okay, 22 is about 7 or 8 questions. Okay, let me take 8 questions. 5 and 8.5. This is about 4 questions. This is about 5 questions. Sorry, 6 questions. Okay. Now, but what is the overall cutoff? 138, which means about 45, 46 questions. Okay. So what you need to remember that sectional cutoffs are easy to obtain. Okay. Sectional cutoffs are easily achieved, but overall cutoff is where you need to work. Overall cutoff. So if you just add the sectional cutoffs in any paper, if you look at any of the paper and just add the sectional cutoffs, the total cutoff will be significantly higher: 34, 15, 49, 49 and 554, 76, and this is about 140. So you need to look at summation of sectional cutoffs is approximately 40-60% of the total score, total cutoff. Okay. This is the broad structure that you're looking at. So when you're preparing for IIFT, I will normally say don't be too worried about the sectional cutoffs. Yes, you have to get them a minimum score in each of the section, but it's the overall cutoff which is going to be the biggest challenge as far as this paper is concerned. Okay. Now let me see if there are any questions out here. Okay. Harshad, 100 marks paper, why do you want? How does it matter whether it is 100 mark paper or 300 mark paper? Rupa, you can't do GA in one week after CAT. You need to start doing GA now itself. I'll talk about it in a short while. Yes, Rajshri, the marks per question are given at the beginning of the paper. Okay. Okay. Now let's see what is it that the paper is likely to be. Okay. Obviously, this is our estimate. Okay. This is our estimate. English usage about 20 questions, reading comprehension 15, quantitative 25, logical reasoning and data interpretation about 15 each, and 20 questions here with this kind of a marking scheme. This is a likely scenario. Okay. Okay. Now, whether they will combine the two sections and make it a 4 section paper, or leave it 6-section paper is something that we would not be able to say ever. Obviously, it is only after the paper that we during the paper that we know, unless NTA or IFT come out, unless NTA and IFT come out with a specific notification which gives us the paper structure. So far, in the last 10, 15, 20 years, they have never come out and told us what the paper structure is. No, Puneet, CAT does not have surprises. It is IFT which is a more complex and more difficult paper. CAT is an easy paper as compared to IFT. Okay. Now, let's look at this paper and understand how to attempt this. Now, when you look at the English usage section has all kind of questions. Okay, English usage will have uh, let's say out of the 20 questions, out of 20 questions of English usage, you'll have typically have about questions from vocabulary, which means synonyms, antonyms. You'll have questions from parajumbles, couple of questions of parajumbles. You'll have fill in the blanks. You can have spelling. You can have basic grammar also, spot the other, etc., etc. So these 20 questions will typically about 6 to 7 areas, each area giving you 2 to 3 questions. So what you need to remember, IFT is fond of giving you large number of questions of different type, and they don't get stuck in one particular area. So if you struggle in one particular area, for example, parajumble is a problem for you, there are fill in the blank, spelling, grammar, and syllogisms, synonyms, antonyms, everything is there. So as far as this paper is concerned, the English section, by and large, you should be able to complete this section in something like 10 minutes. Okay, 20 questions, 10 minutes look high, but remember, out of these 20 questions, about 7 to 8 are going to be vocabulary, 2 to 3 are going to be fill in the blanks. So about 50% or 10 out of 20 questions will be this, and these 10 questions can easily be completed in something like 3 to 4 minutes. Now, the challenge here is that you don't waste time. This is the place where students tend to waste a lot of time, because even if you don't know the meaning of the word, you tend to keep looking at the question again and again, trying to eliminate choices. That's a complete waste of time. You should just leave it. Okay? And then the parajumbles also have choices given. Since the parajumbles have choices, you can identify the starting or the ending statement and eliminate choices and come to the answer fast. Okay. So this is where you are looking at as far as English usage is concerned. This is what you're looking for in the English usage section. About 10 minutes, and we are 20 questions, and you should typically be able to get 12, 13 right in this particular section. Okay. Now, reading comprehension is one of the sections which I would say is a scoring area in this paper. As far as reading comprehension is concerned, typically you have 4 passages or 4 questions each. Okay. At times, one odd passage might have 3 questions. So we are talking about 4 passages of 4 questions each, about 16 questions in all. It could be 15 also. So 15 to 16 is what we look at. Okay. However, the passages are usually easy to read. Not only are they easy to read, the questions are direct. Okay. Questions are also direct. So unlike CAT, which are where you have inferential questions, here you will typically have factual and direct questions in a larger number. Out of the 16 questions, about 12 to 13 questions are typically going to be direct, specific, detailed questions, and hence you can very easily come down, get the answer to the question. Okay. The key thing out here is this is a section where you should be willing to spend time. Even if you spend about 8 to 9 minutes per passage, is perfectly fine, because this is a section which you can score. It is very difficult to do well in IIFT without getting a good score in reading comprehension, and which is why, while one can do it in this section in 25 minutes also, I would say if you are slow in terms of reading, or reading is not your strong area, you should be okay giving up to 35 minutes. Less than 30 minutes I will normally not recommend. Normally my suggestion is going to be give about 30 minutes minimum to reading comprehension. So between these two sections, if you look at about 45 minutes, and out of these 15, 16 questions, you can easily get 12 to 13 right questions and about 7 to 8 correct answers here. So getting a score of 60 plus is not a challenge. 12 to 13, not 7 to 8. 12 to 13 correct answers. So between these two, we are talking about 25 attempts. Okay. Between these two sections, we are saying about 25 attempts. So a score of 65 odd is not going to be difficult at all. Remember, reading comprehension you should complete. This is a section which has to be completed. Passages are not long. Passages are easy to read. Passages have direct questions. Okay. 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 No, the paper does not have sectional time limits. These are time limits which are suggested by us. IFT gives you 2 hours, and in those 2 hours, you can decide how much time to spend in each of the sections. So time management is on to you. Okay.
Uh, JP sir, hi, I'm here, Ravi, and
Yeah. Well,
yeah, there is one question, the one interesting question that came up. A couple of students, including Ayonjan, asked me a couple of days ago. Okay, sir, we are in a practice of taking all the CAT mocks, and every CAT mock that we take, we are bound to that sectional time limit of having only 40 minutes in a
mhm,
VRC section. Okay, so
mhm,
in such a scenario, if I want to
mhm.
move from the RC to say, in such a scenario, if there is no sectional time limit in the paper, the entire paper is for 120 minutes. How do I manage this timing exercise that we are suggesting over here?
No, what do you mean by how do you manage this? Don't they have a watch?
They
I
would.
can, so keep a track of time. There's a timer on the screen. You need to work out for yourself. End of the day, my question to Ayanjan and everyone else would be, when you are taking your exams in school and college, were you not able to manage time across the different questions? So the same thing has to be done out here also. The cat, I have always maintained cat is easy. Why is cat easy? 40 minutes per section, you don't have to do time management, right? Secondly, so there's fixed time. Second thing, uh, marks per question is fixed, right? Thirdly, there are 3 sections. Okay, and compare this with IFT. IFT no sectional time limits, so that means you need to do time management. Second, marks per question varies, and whether it is 4 section or 6 section, we don't know. Now, this is what complicates the issue, and this is why in IFT you can get a call at a reasonably low score also. And if you look at the paper, at about 45 marks last 2 years out of 100, or let's say 135 out of 300, we are talking about 45% being the cutoff. In CAT, the cutoff is typically 99.5 percentile if you are general category candidate, and this cutoff I'm talking about general category candidate only. It is low because of the complexity of the paper, which means when you are taking IFT mocks, you need to make sure you keep a track of the time. You keep a track of the time when you, and once you spend adequate amount of time, whatever you have decided in one particular section, then you need to say, okay, I will move out and move to the other section. Okay. So no rocket science. I would say this is something that all of us have been doing in our school exams, in our college exam. We just need to replicate that process all over again.
So, in a nutshell, if there are 4 sections, even if I am a student who wants to clear that overall cutoff, if I get about one third of the marks questions correct in couple of sections to clear the sectional cutoff, and the remaining
Mhm.
2 sections, if I go on full strength, then I think I should be able to clear the cutoff.
Yeah, yeah. You see, Ravi, the critical thing to understand is that sectional cutoffs are fairly low.
Right.
Look at this slide in front of you. English last 2 years, about 12 questions out of 35. 12 out of 35. Uh, there were 35 questions. Okay, so 12 questions out of 35 in English. Okay, and to my mind, you can clear the cutoff by doing only RC or doing only EU. You can clear the cutoff. Similarly, if you look at quant, 5 questions out of 20, 5 out of 25. Okay, and this is 8 marks, which means 3 questions. Okay, so cutoff is never the challenge. This is about 7 questions. 7 questions out of 40. Seven out of 20. So from that point of view, you're absolutely right. In a section, if I have done about one third of the question, you will most probably clear the cutoff. Okay. except in general awareness. General awareness, look at the cutoffs. 5 questions, 2 questions, 4 questions, 2 questions. This is 1.14, so 3 questions. This is going to be 1.54 questions and 7 questions. 6 questions. And general awareness typically is about 20 or 25 questions. Okay.
Right.
So general awareness is an area where the cutoff is very poor, and if you have done 6 questions correctly, you should move out of the section completely. But yes, the important thing to remember is if you have to get the overall cutoff, you need to maximize in 2 sections. That means 2 sections should not be just at the cutoff. You need to get a very high score. And to me, one of those sections is always going to be reading comprehension. Reading comprehension, 16 questions on an average. There have been 15 also, 17 also. Take 16 questions on an average. You should be targeting a score of 40 in reading comprehension. Worst case, 35. So in reading comprehension, you should be looking at a 35 to 40, if not higher. This is where you will be able to create a gap between yourself and others. The other section can be typically QA or DIL or LR, depending upon your strength. Usually it is not DI, though if I look at the IIFT, this particular paper, 2022 paper, DI was the easiest section and LR was difficult. But this keeps on varying from year to year. Okay? So which is why I say it is RC, you definitely have to maximize your score. And if you're good in QA, you can maximize in QA. If not, then you can look at LR or DI to maximize your score. Okay?
So which would mean that unlike in cat, you get the flexibility here to manage your time across the sections, and
Yes.
and allot maximum time to the strength section that is your strength.
I would not say maximum time, but slightly higher time to the strong area so that you can clear the sectional cutoff completely. So that you can clear the overall cutoff.
Right. Right.
Okay. So let's continue.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Now, now English usage we have talked about. RC we have talked about. Remember, this is a paper you should be okay giving at least 30 minutes out here. If you don't give at least 30 minutes in reading comprehension, getting to an overall score of about 150 is going to be unlikely. Quantitative ability, 25 questions last couple of years. Okay, and you need to give about 30 minutes. The important thing to understand about QA is that it has short questions. Some questions are very long. They are almost like RC. Some of the questions look almost like reading comprehension, and while the questions are easy, long questions but easy questions. If I look at the level of difficulty, IIFT, you will find it to be easier than CAT. And here, if you need to look at 10 to 11 questions done correctly in 30 minutes, it should be perfectly fine. Obviously, if you are good in quantitative aptitude, you could look at not 10 questions, you could look at about 15 to 18 questions. Typically, going beyond 18 questions becomes a challenge because some of the questions are very long, and it is almost like doing reading comprehension in the paper. Okay. Then comes logical reasoning and data interpretation. Now, logical reasoning, data interpretation typically is a combined section. Okay, that this is the case. This is what happened in the last couple of years, and even before that, it has been the case. Okay, okay. If you just to take you back, 2016, 18, 17, 19, and last 2 years. It was only 2015, 17 that quantitative aptitude and data interpretation were combined. Okay. So when you look at QA level of difficulty, it is low. It is okay. Let me just write it down here. Long questions, level of difficulty is fairly low. Okay, and it is not difficult to get something like 12 to 13 questions to attempt out of the 25 questions are there. A good student can look at going up to 17 to 18 questions. Okay, and here I will say 30 minutes. Now many of you might have an issue. Why 30 minutes in quant and why 35 in RC? In 35 minutes in RC, you can easily get something like 40 minutes, 40 marks. And which is why you should be doing this first. And this has to be maximized. This has RC has to be maximized with everyone. So when I say maximize 2 sections, I will always be, you have to maximize in RC plus one other section. Okay. Then we can look at the other two sections, logical reasoning and data interpretation. Now, logical reasoning and data interpretation, okay, let me look at both of them one by one. When you look at logical reasoning as such, all kind of questions come. You will have a couple of questions of arrangement, coding, decoding, okay, coding, alphanumeric series, alpha or numeric series, okay, and you could even have a couple of questions of input output, okay. LR might even have a couple of questions of critical reasoning, okay. So when you're looking at the LR section, you will have all kind of questions, arrangement, and the typical regular logical reasoning of arrangement kind of data sets are also there, okay. uh, so LR is going to be typically 15 odd questions. There will be 2 to 3 sets of data, and there will be 5 6 individual questions. So LR will be 2 to 3 data sets plus about 6 to 7 independent questions. That's the way the paper is structured. Okay, and as I said, the question types are multiple. All kind of questions are available. Data interpretation typically is 4 sets of data, both RC as well as data interpretation. If you look at about 15 to 16 questions, 4 sets each. In RC, there are going to be 4 passages typically. In DI, there are typically 4 sets of data. Now, these 4 sets of data, with the exception of this year, 2022, this year had easy DI and difficult LR. But most of the time, it is the other way around. But when there's a combined section, you can choose to leave the difficult one and go for the easy part of the paper. So 4 sets of data, as far as this paper is concerned, in these 4 sets of data, you will always find that there's possibly one odd easy set, but more importantly, when it is lengthy, you will find the paper is not worth attempting. If it is a lengthy or difficult paper, then all you should do is look at one odd passage, one odd data set, and just solve those questions, or maybe solve 1 or 2 easy questions from there and move on to the other part. The default is look at both these areas together first, and if LR looks easy, go for it. If DI looks easy, go for it. LR, many a time you may not be able to identify whether it's easy or difficult, but DI very easily you can. The graphs and charts can be very complicated at times. Difficult, complicated graph and chart means maybe you should not be doing it. Similarly, when you look at the question, many times they'll not ask you which is the highest or the lowest, which is the third highest, which is the second lowest, which means you will have to do the complete calculation, and you cannot just eliminate choices, and that is what makes this paper difficult. Okay. Okay. So about 40 minutes between the two. I will say typically, usually 15 minutes to DI and 25 to LR. It could be the reverse also. It could even be 30 and 10, depending on the level of difficulty of the questions. Okay. Okay. Now supposing it happens to be a 6 section paper. If it's a 6 section paper, what you should then do is, and DI is difficult, spend 5 minutes to DI. If DI is difficult, spend 5 minutes on DI, and do only about 3 to 4 questions, because whenever DI was an individual section, look at DI being an individual section. This is one question. This is 0.25 marks. Remember, 1 mark per question, 0.25 marks per question, 0.25 marks. So if DI is a single section, the cutoff is usually very low because the DI section is usually difficult. And that is where you should then tell yourself, okay, in 5 minutes, if I look at DI as a single section and I think that DI is difficult, spend about 5, at best 7 minutes, do about 4 to 5 questions and forget about this one. And then go and maximize in LR and QA. Okay. Okay. I hope this is fine. The LR-DI conundrum. Yeah. Then comes general awareness. Now, general awareness is the section which is responsible for large number of students not getting interview calls. Why? Because we have a habit of marking answers to questions even if we don't know the answer. General awareness, look at the cutoffs. Again, I'll take you back to the cutoffs, and I'll write down the number of questions rather than the marks. This is 5 questions. 2 questions, 4 questions. This is the 0.82 would be in again 2 questions, and this is about 3 questions. This is 4 questions. This is 6 questions. Okay. Now this is 6 questions out of 20, 4 out of 20, 3 out of 18, 2 out of 18, 4 out of 25, 2 out of 28, and this is again 5 out of 26 questions. So please notice that the cutoffs are fairly low. It is low because most of the students are poor in general awareness, and hence your task should not be to mark every answer. Your task be to say, I will look at the question. If I know the answer, then mark. If you don't know, leave. It is, don't waste your time. General awareness, 20, if we look at last year's paper, about last couple of years paper, 20 questions. 20 questions should not take you more than something 5 to 6 minutes. At the max, you will possibly go to 7 to 8 minutes. Yeah. And remember, out here, your task is to only mark the question you're 100% sure of. Okay. Otherwise, you will collect lots of negatives and you will end up with a poor score, and you will not be able to clear the sectional cutoff. Okay. So I hope that explains the paper to you.
Sir, one question that is popping up
Mhm.
is one about how many mocks should we take to get accustomed to IIFT. The second is how many mocks should we take pre-CAT and how many to take post-CAT.
Okay. Ravi, I'll address this question in a short while. Let me just
Right.
get through the paper part first. Okay.
Yeah,
So if I just summarize, I'll come back to this question, Ravi, in a few minutes. If I
sure.
just summarize, English usage, lots of vocabulary. Okay. Grammar, fill in the blanks. Okay. This is what the paper is about, and with a few other things. Reading comprehension, 4 passages, easy, easy to handle passages, direct question, and this is where you look at maximizing your score. Okay. Quantitative aptitude, long questions, but easy questions. Not all questions are long, but out of the 25 odd questions, about 7-8 questions will be long and almost like reading, um, almost like reading comprehension. And this is where again you can look at maximizing if you are good. If you are not good in quant, then obviously you can't maximize here. Maximization will not happen here. And then the third area where you can look at maximizing your score is LR. Now, out of these 2 areas, you need to look at maximizing. LR, again, all kind of data sets. Arithmetic, quantitative ability will again be typically arithmetic plus algebra, similar to CAT, but easier level of lower level of difficulty. Data interpretation, as I said, this particular section, typically 4 sets of data and difficult in terms of calculation and choices. This is the section where you need to be careful. If it's a single section, just don't spend too much time out here. First, assess whether the level of difficulty is low or high. If the questions are difficult, data is complicated, don't worry. Do about 3 to 4 questions in 5 minutes and move out. General awareness, don't take chances. Okay? Don't guess. Okay? Now, one more thing which you need to remember, English usage, reading comprehension, general awareness. These 3 areas typically have questions of match the following. Okay? And these match the following. Most of the questions you can easily solve by getting 1 or 2 matches. If you get 1 match, typically you will find some of the questions. So 1 maximum 2 matches are usually required. And these are the match the following are the ones which are lifesaver. General awareness typically has about 4 to 5. In the paper, you will definitely have about 10 questions which are okay. In the paper, you'll have about 10 match the following questions. And these should not be ignored at all. These are the ones which will help you clear the cutoffs, because these are easy and these are typically and you can typically get the answer by 1 maximum 2 matches. You don't need to match all 4. Okay. Okay. Just to summarize, just to close this part, lowest marks per question is GK. 4 to 6 questions is clear to sufficient to clear the cutoff. Don't do any kind of guesswork. EU plus RC is clear for interview call. And between the two, I will always say make sure you complete the RC section. If this means you have to give 5 minutes extra, that's perfectly fine. This is a section in which you can even get up to 75 marks. DILR, typically one is easy, one is difficult, and most of the time this is the easier section. Most of the time, not always, but this is the one which is easier, and this is where you should be focusing. If DI is easy, then obviously you shift your focus there. And here at this 45 odd is a reasonably good score. If you are good in quant, then this is a section with 25 questions. You can easily look at another 50 plus score out here. Okay, so if you can get about 50 odd here, then again it is safe. So one way to look at it is 75 plus 45 or 75 plus 50, or it could even be 50 plus 45. Okay, though that will not take you very close. A 75 plus 50 or 75 plus 45 will easily take you to the cutoff. But if you are hypothetically very weak in English, then possibly you need to look at maximizing in these two particular areas rather than RC. So I would say even if you are weak in English, please get into the habit of reading and getting the answer, because the questions are very, very straightforward as far as the RC in IIFT is concerned. Okay. Yeah. So 300 mark paper, what does this mean? 60 to 65 questions out of 100 questions. Okay. So typically not 100, I think it's about 110 questions typically. About 110 questions. Now, this is something which many of you had asked, no sectional time limit. So please be conscious of the time. If you give 2 minutes extra to every section, the last section you will not have sufficient time. So please make sure you don't waste time. And once you have decided, you have got what you want, by and large, these are the time limits you should be looking at. Okay. If you want to go low, this could be 30 to 35, though I'll say 35 is fine with me. Okay. Between the two, something like 40 to 45 minutes is you should be looking at. Okay. Between these two, 40 minutes is more than enough. 5 minutes out here and 30 minutes. Now, if you say I can do English in 40 minutes, then the extra 5 minutes, my suggestion will be to take it into either DILR or quant, whichever is your stronger area. If you say I'm stronger in quant, give those extra 5 minutes to quant so that you can do 2-3 extra questions. If you're stronger in DILR, especially LR, then this is where you should be spending extra time so that you can maximize your score in this particular section. Have you any questions so far on what we have covered so far? I still have to answer your question of the mocks and other stuff. Assume a 6-section paper. If it comes out to be 4, you'll only be better off.
Yeah, the only question about the pattern of the paper that has popped up quite frequently is what is the penalty for a negative answer, a wrong answer?
1/3.
One
1/3.
third.
So plus 3 minus 1 or plus 1.5 minus 0.5.
That is absolutely where I guess the zero point 0.5 marks in GK will make a lot of difference. If you don't know, don't guess.
Yeah, don't know, don't guess. Absolutely right. No guesswork has to be the motto for general awareness. Out of those 20-25 questions, you'll definitely get 5-6 questions you know the answers of. Okay. See,
And the beauty of that section is probably that all the 20 sections can be looked at in 20 minutes. Either you know it, you don't know it. That's
not
it.
20 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah, all the 20 questions can be seen in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is what I said. About 10 to 15 match the following question primarily between these three, and typically one match is sufficient to get the answer. I'm sure many of you would have eaten South Indian thali. So Ravi, since you are from Hyderabad, what's a South Indian? What's the specialty of a South Indian thali?
You get all types of things in this.
Some 7 small katoris or bowls. Okay, and that is what the paper is. If you look at GK or general awareness, you'll have 2 to 3 questions of sports, 2 to 3 questions of current affairs, 2 3 questions of politics, couple of questions from international relations, couple of books and authors, couple of Nobel Prize winners, couple of mountaineers. So every area there are going to be 2 to 3 questions as such. So if you don't know anything about sports, you should be leaving sports. Don't worry about it. You can this what this means is you can maximize on your area of strength. Okay? And your weakness will not matter much because if you don't know sports, all you'll miss out is 2 questions. Remember, GK you need to get about 6 questions correct only, not more than that. But in the paper, if you find there are only 4 questions you are sure of, just leave it at 4 because you'll still probably clear the cutoff. All that means is possibly it's a difficult paper. Now, the South Indian thali is also visible in EU, English usage. Some question of vocabulary, which means synonyms, antonyms, analogies, grammar, parajumble, fill in the blank, single fill in the blank, double fill in the blank. Every kind of question will be 2 to 3 in number. Okay? And which straight away means again the same thing. If you don't know spellings, you can leave spellings and go for the other one. If you're not comfortable with 2 3 questions of synonyms, antonyms, you can leave them and go for the other one. So there will be nothing which is going to be detrimental significantly. Okay. And the third area where you'll see the South Indian thali is LR. 2 to 3 questions typically of all kinds of data sets. Okay. 2 to 3 questions of all areas, not data sets, areas. As I said, alphanumeric, coding, decoding, series, sequences, um, Venn diagram will also be there, can also be there. Will is a wrong word. It can also be there. Venn diagram, syllogisms, critical reasoning, arrangements, everything is be there. As I said, typically 2 to 3 sets of data with about 6 to 8 questions, and the balance about 8 to 9 questions would be individual questions. And this is where you will see a huge amount of variety in LR. Out of in those 15 questions, you will find about 5 to 6 different question types.
And how much of the questions in general awareness can one expect to be current affairs and how much static, roughly?
You can say 50-50, but there's no hard and fast rule. Okay, there's no hard and fast rule. While you can go for 50-50, and if you look at the past papers, you realize every year there are at least 4 to 5 questions whose answer everyone would know. And then you have these match the following.
Yeah.
Match the following itself will give you 2 to 3 questions to get correct answers. So outside match the following, you need to look at another 2 to 3 questions only in GK.
I think last year in the one of the match the following questions, it was countries and their cricket grounds that were asked.
Yes, that's right.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Finally, IIFT as a paper is prone to errors. I wish every paper they write at the bottom. This is what they should be writing at the end of every paper. I'm sure some of you might have seen this written at the bottom of the bills or the receipts which you get when you buy something. It says errors and omission exempted. Bhool chook maaf karna. That is what it means. Okay. IIFT paper has errors. Please be willing to live with it. If you are not able to solve the question, even though you think you are right, most probably it's an error. Leave it and move on. Every year we find this. Okay. If you look at the last couple of years also, I think students have got anything between 5 to 15 marks in the last 2 years in every paper, depending upon what question they had attempted or not attempted. So don't be bogged down just because there are errors you are not able to solve, you are not able to get the answer. There will be time in the question you'll say there's a logical flaw. You'll be able to identify it yourself. Okay.
The one more interesting question on the test paper interface. What
Hmm.
happened when IFT was conducted by NTA last year? I guess the interface was very clumsy, and scrolling through the RC section was a nightmare.
Yeah, but it was a nightmare for everyone, so it does not matter. And then you have the question paper button. You should be willing to use the question paper button. NTA also outsources the paper conducting to TCS. So the interface is by and large the same. Interface is the same as that of CAT. By and large, there would be some minor variation here or there, but nothing to be really worried about. Okay. Okay. So and if there's some issue, as I said, that's an issue for everyone, so it does not matter at all. Okay. Now let me come to your other question, which you people have been asking as to how to prepare or what all should you be looking out for. Yeah. Okay. So Ravi, how many mocks are there for IIFT?
We have 7 mocks, and we have released the last 4 years IIFT papers as mocks.
Mock 7.
Yep.
Last 4 years, right?
Yep.
Last 4 years means 20, 20. We are right now in 22, 21. So 20, 2020 paper, 2019, 18, and 17. These 4 papers we have released, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what I want you to look at is these 4 papers have to be taken as actual papers. And prior to these, all the papers you have, they have to be taken as sectional tests. So, if I just go, okay, let me just go back to the, just so that I can reduce my writing effort. Yeah. These 4 papers have to be taken as mocks. This, and you'll, if you go to your aspiration account, you'll have even the earlier papers of IIFT. You can take all these papers as sectional tests. Now, which are the sections you need to do from here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't worry about GK, because GK, which was there, all the let's say the current portion of that time is not going to be useful. Okay. For GK, what you should be doing, we'll talk about in a little while. Okay. But these papers have to be taken as sectional tests. Now you can start doing this immediately. This is not going to hamper your CAT preparation at all, because as I said, the level of the syllabus is almost similar. In English usage, you have some additional bit of vocabulary. I see the passages are easier. QA is exactly the same but lengthy question. And similarly, DILR will be along the same lines while the variety is higher. So these papers you to take as this. In addition to this, what I would definitely want you to do is take at least these 2 papers. Take these 2 papers as mocks now in the next couple of weeks, so that you get a hang of the paper. If you don't want to do a 6-section paper, do a 4-section paper. So out of these 4 papers, take any 2 papers. Out of these paper, any 2 papers to be taken. Okay, taken now. So what I wanted to do is 2 old papers plus 2 mocks. 1 paper per week from now till CAT. Okay. So 2 old papers plus 2 mocks per week till CAT. Okay. CAT is on 28th November, right? 29th, 30, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. 5th is IIFT. 1 paper per day, right? In addition to this, what you can do is, along with this, as I said, older papers of IIFT, do sectional tests from there. Just to repeat, sectional tests of all except GK. This is the preparation strategy. The syllabus is almost the same. The only thing extra is GA. For general awareness, we will be releasing a compendium. Ravi, what's the timeline for the compendium?
5th of November we'll be releasing it with all the current affairs compiled up to October.
5th November, it will be released. Start mugging it up. Every day, spend half an hour to 1 hour, maybe in two slots of 30 minutes each. If you can do 4 times 30 minutes each or 4 times 20 minutes, it's perfectly fine. But something like 40 to 80 minutes every day on the compendium to start mugging up. Obviously, you need to read the newspapers also, and there are some things which are very, very likely. For example, Olympics. India's performance in the Olympics has been good. Some of that could be asked. Paralympics people will miss out, and that is why possibly Paralympics questions are possible there. So remember, compendium will take care of your GK work. Older papers are your practice material, and here you should definitely do, while you may choose not to do others, but reading comprehension and LR you should definitely do from here. My suggestion is do all sections from here except general awareness. So every day you could pick one paper, just do the all sections as sectional test. That will be helpful for you in CAT also, and because especially in Quant and LR, you are going to be doing exactly the same thing, if not exactly the same thing, almost the same thing. Okay, so remember that there won't be any problem with respect to this area. Yeah, Ravi, I hope that explains how the preparation should go on.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. And in this period, when you're taking one paper per day, obviously you have to keep revising your compendium, and you have to keep looking at the older papers if you have not done. You have lots of material. Okay. If I look
Sir,
at these papers,
while that totally answers how to go about general awareness, is the GK compendium is more or less sufficient for the general awareness part. What is it that one needs to do extra over and above the CAT preparation for the other four sections, other three sections?
nothing. That's what I was saying. Okay, look at this way. If you look at the older papers, okay, and I'm looking at these particular papers, and if in the aspiration account, I think papers are there up till 2010-11. Okay. So if you look at these papers, about 6 or 7 papers, all I want you to do is, for example, you pick up this particular paper, 2017-19, EU, RC, QA, DILR. All of them is relevant. All of them are relevant for CAT also. So just do this. You could say, okay, you could pick up on day one, let's say, pick up 3 papers, do EU from there. Day two, pick up 3 papers, do RC from there. Or you could say day one, I'll do all sections of paper one. Day two, all sections of paper two. So you can decide which way you want to do. But my basic point is, from these older papers, 2017, 19, and earlier, you should definitely be doing at least 4 to 5 papers and treat them like sectional tests. Okay. You could, if you do 4 papers and do EU, about 80 questions of EU, you'll get to know exactly what is going to come there. Okay. These papers from here onwards, they have to be taken like an actual paper. And I would definitely want you to do these 2 papers also, because it is possible you might have a 6 section paper. You need to learn how to handle a 6 section paper is a little more complex, and you will also see the cutoff that, as already said, had gone down. This 138 is equivalent to something like 46 marks in the earlier paper. As compared to 46, these are 35. This was 4 section papers, 48, 48, 38. So these are papers which you need to learn to handle. And here the basic issue is, in a 6 section paper, don't waste time on DI 5 minutes, 2 to 3 questions. You will clear the cutoff. Unless it happens to be a very, very difficult, easy paper. LR is where you maximize typically in a 6 section paper. RC, you always have to maximize. The cutoff is fairly low, but you need to be looking at 12 to 13 correct answers all the time, irrespective of whether it's a 4 section or a 6 section paper. Now, supposing it's a 6 section paper, what should your time limits be? This is exactly what has been given out here. You can, okay, sorry, I'm sorry, not here. Yeah, okay. When there's a single section, it is 10 plus 35, a combined section, probably 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. Okay. Now, supposing DI is very, very difficult in a 6-section paper, reduce it to 5 minutes and make it to be about 30 minutes. Maximize here. If it is a reverse, that is exactly what that. If it is a reverse, then you will probably take this to 20 minutes and do this in 10 minutes. So the time management is going to be critical. People don't lose out on this paper because it's a difficult paper. They lose out because it's a time management issue. If you're not able to manage your time, you will lose out in this paper. And which is why your timer has to be in front of you. When you start the paper, you should straight away tell yourself, okay, this much time I'm going. So when you get to the paper, get to the examination hall, 15 minutes of instruction reading which is available. It will tell you structure of the paper, which means how many sections, how many questions. It will tell you very clearly. You will at least know 4 sections or 6 sections. The moment you know 4 sections, you know it is going to be EURC combined, and most probably this is going to be combined. You know this is a structure you have to follow. And then you can also write down your timer, that 120 minutes I'm starting. I start at 120. Okay. Um, my general awareness should be over by, let's say, 110. Okay. After that, I will do EU plus RC. EU plus RC should be over by about 170, maybe 65. I would say when you are okay, then I will want to move to LR or DI. Again, 35, and QA 0. That's the way you'll have to write down the structure for yourself. Now, one other question which possibly no one has asked, but let me just try and address it. What should be the sequence in which you should attempt? What should be your sequence of attempt as far as this paper is concerned? The sequence of attempt, to my mind, is going to be a function of what you want to do. To me, at the end of the day, I will say EU plus RC should be done at the beginning. Why? Because this is an area where you will maximize. General awareness can be either at the beginning or at the end, depending upon your preference. If you think that you're starting with GA, you will end up wasting a lot of time. Then you should not be doing general awareness in the beginning. You should keep the last 5 to 6 minutes for general awareness. Okay? But EU plus RC should be your starting point because RC you have to maximize. Next, LR, DI, QA, play it as per your requirement. To me, this is definitely the start. This is either the beginning or the end, and this is somewhere in the middle based on your personal preference. Okay. 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 Ravi, any other questions?
So that's it, more or less. I think we have answered most of the concerns. There are a couple of questions which are related to mocks. That will CL IIFT mocks be provided as sectional test? The mocks will not be provided as sectional test. However, the previous year's papers will be converted into sections, and that will be made available to you. Mudit, you are asking if the GK compendium is out or not. It will be out on the 5th of November. You'll still have 1 month to Ratlo Puravo. You'll be able to do that. You'll have that 1 month. And Rajesh is asking what is
Yeah,
the level of difficulty of
yeah.
CL songs? As,
Ravi, I
yeah.
was just about to answer that question. Actually, can you tell me what is the level of difficulty of IFT papers? The screen is in front of you. Look at the cutoffs every year. Is there a defined level of difficulty of the paper? If there's no defined level of difficulty of the paper, how can we say what is going to be the degree of difficulty this year? So you have to prepare for varying levels of difficulty. 2015-17, a 4-section paper, 38 was a very good score. Okay. So it does not mean at all anything. Just focus on, in a given paper, are you able to maximize your score by doing the right time management? This is a paper in which time management will be very, very important. If you can't do your time management well, then it is going to be a struggle for you. Okay. So Ravi, I
One
think
more
that
thing is,
yeah.
while you have spoken, sir, about how many IFT mocks to be taken and what should be its frequency. If we have to draw a parallel between IFT and CAT, both of them doing simultaneously, then how should I plan my mocks?
See, I will still say you take one mock per week, one IIFT mock per week is what you should do. And in the last 5 days, Sunday you will have a CAT, next Sunday you'll have IFT. In the intervening Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 5 papers. So let me put it this way: pre-CAT, one mock IFT per week. It could be one mock IFT or old IFT paper. So I'm saying 4 papers here. Then 5 papers post CAT, 5 mocks. So I'm saying 9 papers you need, 5 mocks and 4 old IFT papers you should definitely do. And I'm very clear which 4 IFT papers, these 4, right? Because these are more relevant to you. If you go to 2015, 17 or 14, 16, you will find a couple of questions of quant which will not be relevant for you. Okay? For example, earlier they used to give questions from trigonometry and calculus also in 2009, 10, 11. Those questions will not be relevant. To me, it is important to look at these 4 papers. These 4 have to be taken as actual mocks. 7 mocks are there, 7 plus 4, 11. Out of these 11 papers, I want you to take any 9 papers like mock. Remaining, you can treat it like sectional test. Secondly, as I said, these papers, start doing these papers also in the form of sectional test. These are your sectionals. Okay. Start with these 3 papers first. Once you finish these, then pick up the earlier 3 papers. Those 6 papers would be enough. And I am again repeating, these papers will help you in CAT also. EU, RC, QA, DI, LR, everywhere you'll find it. This will be helpful for you in CAT also.
So that's
Okay.
it, sir. I think we have more or less answered almost all questions. Pratik, you are again asking where is GK Compendium? See, I wanted to release the GK Compendium in July itself, but then I realized I cannot compile the current affairs up to October in July, so I waited. So we'll release it on the 5th of November.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then that's it from our side. Thank you. All the best.